wasting time on my own. All the places you said we go, all this pain builds within. Footsteps fade, what could have been? Finally I feel more free. The end of you and me, let it go, let it be. My heart belongs to me. My heart belongs to me. You're never gonna let me go, and I will never let you go. And now I'm feeling stronger, feeling stronger. You're never gonna let me go, and I will never let you go. And now I'm feeling stronger, feeling stronger. Feeling stronger, feeling stronger. Feeling stronger. Feeling stronger, feeling stronger, feeling stronger. Let it go, let it be. My heart belongs to me. Let it go, let it be. My heart belongs to me. Wasting time on my own. All the places you said we go, all this pain builds within. Footsteps fade, what could have been? Finally I feel more free. The end of you and me. Let it go, let it be. My heart belongs to me. My heart belongs to me. it's all coming to me. Who said these walls could never be breached? We all long for that one thing, a life that's worth living. And tonight there'll be a reckoning. I am ready. Are you with me?
In my life.
Twelve teams representing some of the biggest cities around the world. 72 of the world's most talented poker players with over $350 million in combined lifetime earnings will put everything on the line over 8 months to compete for the title of the first ever GPL World Champions. Which team has what it takes? The Global Poker League starts now.
Hello and welcome back. You are watching the Global Poker League. I am Laura Cornelius and joined by Eric Danny this Wednesday evening. We are live. It is all about heads-up play from EurAsia. We watched an epic heads-up match between Jungle Man and Nanonoko just before. You enjoyed that, didn't you, Eric?
Yeah, I think everyone did. It was just a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone who tuned in on Twitch and to through all of our other channels on Facebook. Yeah, it was a very entertaining matchup, back and forth a lot. The Jungle wasn't that lucky again today, and just a miserable time if you're a Berlin Bear fan. It's just the worst right now. And if you're a Nanonoko fan and a Hong Kong Stars fan, well, things are looking pretty good right now.
He did have a smile on his face at one point, just at the end of that second match that he won.
Because he finally hit a flop, or a turn actually, that after being destroyed on the flop, he was saved on the turn, and that just hasn't happened for Jungle at all. He's never, he's not won his flips at all this season, so it's been a rough go for the Big Bear.
A rough go for the Big Bear, I like it. Coming up next though, this is another big heads-up match. This time, it is London versus Paris.
Yeah, this is one of the matchups that I was looking forward to when the schedule did come out, to find out when London and Paris played first. It's always the two, probably the two biggest cities in Europe, two of the most popular cities in the world. So it'll be fun to see what happens here. Just so happens that the two team managers gave us incredible players as well. So you've got Igor Kurganov versus George Danzer. It's a little baptism by fire for George. It's a little rough that Fabrice Soulier would have put George in this situation right in his first match, to have to play Igor Kurganov, to have to play such a major matchup. Suddenly Paris needs these points because they're not at the top of the table. So intriguing to see how George performs today.
I mean, you say that about George, but you know, he's got some phenomenal results. He was the WSOP Player of the Year, not the last year, but the year before,
Yeah, 2014, 3 bracelets, 6 major titles online as well, W Coops and Scoops. So, of course, very much accomplished. It's just that you probably would want to start, you know, a little slower than what's happening today with Igor Kurganov, widely known as one of the top poker players in the world.
Actually, both German, aren't they, essentially?
Right. Igor
neither
of Russian
playing for
descent, but
Germany.
yeah, they're spending a lot of time in Germany. It's the Germans, right? They control the poker world and they do so well. So not surprised to see a German influence in this GPL.
Do you know much about their online play? Obviously, we know a bit about their live performances, but talk us through some of their online action.
Yeah, Igor's played a lot of cash games. We don't have a lot of those results. George, 4 scoops, 2 W Coops. He's the person that's won the that's cashed the most in scoop tournaments. So just great results for George. None of those in heads-up play, so we'll have to see how that works out. Obviously, he got to heads-up in those tournaments. The same he did when winning his 3 bracelets. But when you look at George's history, there's nothing much that says, you know, heads up. But again, I mean, a guy that's winning so much on tour. Same thing for Kurganov, 9 wins on the live circuit. Wouldn't be surprised if both give us a great match today.
I don't think it will be as quick as the very first Jungle Man, Nanonoko.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that both Nanonoko and Jungle were just looking for action, wanted to have fun, whereas these two, at least the first match, might take a while to get going unless there's a big hand where both inevitably are all in.
The Dominic Nietzsche heads-up games, they were, you know, they took their time, didn't they? You could tell he was...
Right, and not surprising given the class of player in Nietzsche and in Troyanovsky. We shouldn't be surprised to see that. Both are very evenly matched, and I think both really enjoyed those matches as well. I think, Laura, this will be the type of match that might be the same type of feeling. Both players will have a lot of respect for each other. You mentioned their ties to Germany. Both have spent a lot of time there. I think we're going to have a classy match compared to the first one, which is a little catty. But
who wants classy?
That's right. Well, you're going to be stuck with class in this one, I believe. But George is always on. When the camera is on, George is always there to put on a show.
Okay, last-minute prediction, 3 games. Who's going to win?
I'm going Kurganov, even though I'm such a big George Danzer guy. I'm going Kurganov. Can't bet against
2-1 or 3-0?
Let's go 2-1, of course. You're politically correct. Maybe 1-1 in a weird tie that can't happen.
Oh, I like it, Eric.
It's the political correctness.
Right, we're gonna go over to the desk now to Griffin and to Sam, and let's have a little bit of match analysis.
You guys are so cute. That was Laura Cornelius and Eric Danny. I'm Griffin Benger, joined by Sam Grafton. You're watching Week 3, Day 2 of this week of the Global Poker League. Please follow the conversation at GPL, globalpokerleague.com. Let's talk about this match. George Danzer, Igor Kurganov, both legends of the game. Igor more so, maybe necessarily, but recently, of course, George Danzer, all the success this summer at the World Series. What a great matchup here today.
Yeah, really exciting. The best of times, the worst of times. London Royals versus Paris Aviators. Really exciting stuff. At the moment, Paris Aviators flying high at the top of the league. London Royals, many people's pre-season favourites for the EurAsia division. A big matchup. And particularly exciting to see Igor Kurganov. I only got a brief glimpse of him playing one 6-max match. I believe that was the first match of the GPL where he put in a very good performance and finished second. It's going to be really exciting to see him back in action today.
Yeah, in my opinion, you look at the London Royals and the Paris Aviators. To me, it's really sort of Clash of the Titans sort of stuff. FC Barcelona against Real Madrid. With these two particular guys, Messi versus Ronaldo. You look at Igor Kurganov, hailing from Russia, of course, a dual citizen of Germany as well. A GPI rank of 25. He's been even higher than that. Over 10 million in earnings. Look at that win rate. 9 wins and 49 results. This is a guy who only has cashed 50 times because he doesn't even really play the main events. He's out there playing the cash games, plays the super high rollers. Just a unbelievable talent.
Yeah, of course, this is someone from that cabal of German high-stakes pros. No one really exactly knows how the money sort of moves and is shared amongst them, but we do know he has, as you say, 10 million in tournament earnings, and who knows how much in cash game earnings, behind the scenes, away from the eyes of the camera and the rankings. Certainly an incredible record and a feared opponent online and live.
Yeah, and someone who's committed to a lot of different causes. You talk about Reg Charity. This is the partner of Liv Barry. We saw yesterday Liv with that incredible result in the 6-max. So he obviously wants to come in here, make a good impression for the London Royals. This team is just, I can't say enough about it. You got Justin Bonomo, you got Chris Moorman, you got Sam Trickett. Igor Kurganov, Liv Bory, this team is by far, in my opinion, the toughest team in the EurAsia division. But if there's ever a team that's going to give them a real run for their money right now, it's the Paris Aviators.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about Igor as a favourite over George today, it's because he was a #1 draft pick. And I think that the reason Liv had to pick him so early, is because if she hadn't picked him, someone else would have snapped him up. He really has that level of respect across the board in the community. There's not many people who have such abilities in cash games and tournaments. High rollers can do everything, really.
Yeah, and it goes to show how strong the Royals is. The person that I forgot is Vanessa Selps, and she's someone who's in my top 5. So this team, London Royals, incredible. Igor Kurganov really going to come out firing today against Danzer, but don't count Danzer out. This guy is really, a student of the game, someone that really just is focused on all the different kind of disciplinaries. As we look at the stats here for George Danzer, always a very colorful figure in the community, different hairstyles, very, flamboyant and wonderful. GPI rank only 450, just over almost 2.5 million in earnings, 46 results with 4 wins, most of which coming at the World Series of Poker this last July and June. Just a great player and a great representative of the PokerStars brand.
Yeah, he does have some No Limit Hold'em experience. He does have both a W Coop title and a Scoop title in No Limit Hold'em, and they're not easy to come by. But yeah, primarily known for his mixed game abilities. That's where he secured his bracelets, and obviously that incredibly prestigious World Series of Poker Player of the Year title, which is really, the thing that he's most famed for. Going to be really interesting to see what his No Limit Hold'em background, how sharp his game is, but I've got to say, not an enviable position to be in, coming up against really one of the top players in a very, very tough league in Igor Kurganov in this first match. Really, really a baptism of fire for George Danzer in the Global Poker League.
Yeah, it's hard to know really what to expect with someone playing their first match. Are they used to the software? Have they been practicing on it? Is he, been watching all of the matches? I really genuinely believe that George Danzer is the kind of guy that's just going to come in there and it's like he's been there the whole time. I think he's really, really, studied the format, studied his opponent. He's going to take this really, really seriously. He really wants to represent the Paris Aviators, who've set the bar so high with the performances of guys like Davide Katai. So I really think that he's going to come in firing today.
Well, I mean, I think one thing we can expect from George is, he's a very outgoing character at the table and away from the table. I've listened to a lot of his training videos before. He does training videos on mixed games on Run It Once, and they're very entertaining. And he's used to talking about strategy, conveying very complex ideas in terms that people can understand. So I think that's going to be a really nice thing. Obviously, we were treated to the exuberance of Randy Liu and unique personality of Jungle Man earlier today. Again, I think we can expect with these two guys, we saw Liv, absolute class act on the webcam yesterday, probably something similar from Igor. And George Danzer, someone that's used to talking about poker strategy and is used to reaching out to a broad audience. And that's going to be a real treat if both of them do use the webcam in that way.
Yeah, and I considered, Igor a friend and a colleague as well, and I talked a lot of hands with him, and he's someone who can really break it down.
Like never ending. Just every day we hear, you're just such a popular guy. Griffin is amazing.
They're going to tear me apart if you do
dinner parties,
stop,
chat with Igor Kurganov. I mean, it's just one long sleepover with the stars of Griffin Bedger. Like, how do I get invited to these parties? Like, tell me, bro.
I got to admit, I make it all up. I'm completely full of shit.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Cody won't even answer my phone calls anymore. Like, I'm an outcast. But,
hey man, at least you can crash on Phil Galfon's couch. I mean, I think that was established. I think you felt like you were in enough.
By the way, the couch was that big. About 8 people could crash on that couch.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Well, you're as loud as 8 people, so that'll be enough. We're gonna get to the match really shortly here, guys. We're just waiting for one of the guys to connect. So let's just keep talking, shall we?
Well, I mean, one of the things we saw yesterday, obviously, we were talking about debutants yesterday, about how maybe the nerves are going to affect people, they're going to sit back. But 4 debutants came out, Andrei Patichuk and Liv Bory, obviously, maybe expected from Liv Bory, but they both came out, put wins on the board. Then Tyler Kenny and Felipe Ramos also with victories yesterday in really tough 6-max matches. So there is, a record of debutants coming in, that kind of nerves of performing on the GPL stage for the first time. It you know, while Igor Kurganov, I think, is undoubtedly a firm favourite going into this match, no one's going to be surprised if George Danzer comes out and puts in a performance. And, you know, Fabrice Soulier, after all, has picked him as his third-round pick.
Right.
There's a lot of guys out there he could have chosen from. Obviously, he wanted, you know, he'd set his stall out and picked a Frenchman and a Belgian. But, you know, he must have some knowledge of George Danzer's game. And, you know, there was never any prospect of it being Horse and Raz on the GPL.
But he still chose.
Yeah, and he still chose George. So, you know, I think that George will have a skill set suited to him. It's just, you know, as I said, not an enviable position to be up against Igor in your first match.
So let's jump into the action, guys. There is the enigmatic George Danzer and the beautiful, peaceful, serene Igor Kurganov with that forest backdrop.
And with two aces.
Let's just jump right in, shall we?
Pretty good start. Still connecting on Twitch. Gotta see what Joe is doing first. He's probably not gonna be doing much against this hand though.
First hand, first 3-bet.
First
So
hand.
obvious that I'm 3-betting the first hand, right, George? Click it back.
Jack 10 is a fine hand to call 3-bet with.
Oof. Stopped a little bit too well.
Almost disappointed, Igor, that he flopped that well. Hard to get action on this texture. Be interesting to see if he decides to give George a free card or bet rather small.
But we would always see that the board. Yeah.
Oh, we can hit the gut shot, right? Oh,
Oh, wow. Action Jackson
I was
here
kind of joking.
in the, in the first hand between Danzer and Igor Kurganov.
But I had to call because sometimes you use a polarized 3-bet and is 3-betting like small suited connectors or stuff like that.
Do you think we can ever expect a raise here from George, Sam? Probably
No.
not, right?
No, I don't think he can have a raising range here when Igor has such a range advantage. The only real value hand George has here when he raises is Jack 10. And of course, Igor can be bluffing with 5-6 of clubs or whatever. You know, he chooses as his bluffs. In
He
this.
wasn't floating with absolutely nothing. Nothing. He was a catch shot now fairly often.
I think I should raise here. He's not gonna bluff the river too often. If I call 2 times,
Gotta make him
I'm gonna have like ace 10, ace jack. I don't think he's gonna bluff against that if he really has the
Interesting analysis from
low
George here.
hand. So I want to get maximum value here.
Random clubs.
And I'm gonna raise the turn.
The only problem with raising here is I think Igor is going to know that he has exactly Jack 10. Don't you think?
Well, we should see.
Of course,
He
he
would
can
never
have
raise
ace king, ace
or something
queen
like that.
if he 3-bets.
So polarizing.
And I could do this move if I had something like queen jack, queen 10, king jack, king 10. That's like the hands I would have here if I would be bluffing.
Interesting.
Such a long tank too. That makes it all the more interesting.
It bricks off.
Wow.
Igor Kurganov has top set. George Danzer with the nut straight.
Yeah, he probably has ace queen or ace king with this line.
I doubt he has queen. Doesn't really have an
He's very good though, he could find a fold.
I really think
Is there
that-
a mount where he cannot find a fold?
I really think Igor will be
Is
able
it
to fold
better
here
to
on
bet
the ship to a shove.
18,000 here to make sure he calls?
He has a lot of Jack 10 combinations that he thought for a long time.
Probably has ace king or ace queen.
Masterclass poker here at the GPL.
I'd actually rather call.
I think if he's playing the odds here, it doesn't make a huge difference if I bet 18 or
Either way,
28.
we're not folding.
And if he has ace king and just calls my push,
He has 4-4.
and I win the first match, it's just worth that much more than leaving him with 10,000. Is it? I guess it's better. We push.
George Danzer all in with the nuts.
Kind of sounds good. First hand, damn it.
1 match to 0. George Danzer.
I can see what he had. But
It wasn't as good as
called,
10 Jack.
Won the first match. It probably was a huge setup. Maybe he had aces.
What a debut for George Danzer. That match over first hand. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting to start hearing them talk about it because, again, a lot of the times when we're in the booth, we feel like experts. It's just like, oh, he's only going to raise 10 Jack here and this and that. But then when they start break it down a little more, you hear, oh, I could raise King Jack here as a bluff, King 10, you know, try to get him to fold hands like Ace Jack, this and that. And even at one point I said, you know, I think Igor is going to be able to find a fold here because I'm thinking in a very linear kind of just like, oh, like he obviously just like always has the nuts here. But when you hear them break it down and Igor saying like he can have 4-4 and that kind of thing, I realized he's going to be snapping here. He's going to hope that he's either bluffing or value shoving worse. Just a huge cooler for Igor Kurganov and the London Royals, and an unfortunate loss of 3 points here. Match is going very quick today, Sam.
Yeah, fantastic start. You know, dream scenario. George Danzer taking off a card, knowing, you know, he has to defend a certain amount on that flop texture, which Igor c-bets, you know, pretty much with 100% of the 100% frequency. And the other bonus is he can bink that queen and make the nuts. That's exactly what happens. And a huge cooler going the way of the Paris Aviators. And, you know, how great must George Danzer be feeling, you know, to have the monkey off his back. First match, 3 points. He knows he's not getting shut out in this contest. Great start for him.
Yeah, and what was with the aces versus 10 Jack coolers? We saw it happen between the Paris Aviators Elke and of course the Berlin Bear himself, Jungleman. So a variance really on the side of the Paris Aviators in these massive coolers, at least in the heads-up matches certainly. So interesting to see that happen so quickly here between two guys that it's going to be so hard for them to bust that quickly.
Yeah, of course. And let's give some credit to George Danzer. I suggested that he wouldn't raise the turn. That's what he did, and as a result, he was able to get stacks in. And also, you saw, you know, that even with the nuts on the river, he doesn't get overexcited. Taking his time, thinking, okay, what's the best bet size to go? What parts of his range am I targeting? Is he going to just? Are there hands that he'll fold for 28,000, but call for 18,000? In the end, he came to the assumption. He arrived at the idea that whatever Igor had, the strongest hands he had, he was calling the 28,000. It was worth shoving to end the match, for the chance of ending the match. He shoved all in, and yep, 3 points on the board for the Paris Aviators.
Yeah, it was actually kind of nice to see you kind of a little wrong there for a second, because you're just like, he shouldn't raise, but then he did.
Possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
Wrong.
Yeah, and then that's the great thing about seeing the really, really special players here at the GPL. I don't know about you, but I'm almost disappointed. I mean, it was a great hand to watch, really interesting. Thank God we got all that perspective, but I want like 5 or 6 more matches.
It's great that we've got 2 more matches of them coming up.
Anyways, Laura, Eric, what's going on? How does that affect everything?
Well, congratulations to George Danzer there and the Paris Aviators picking up 3 points. I think I tempted fate, you know, because I said, I have a feeling these matches might last a little bit longer than the Jungle Man and Oko one. And it was over. One hand. What a cooler.
Or we're often asked, what's the shortest match? And then you think, oh, maybe it was 4 hands, 5 hands. This will make it simple. For the rest of the history of the GPL, one hand. One hand is all it took for George Danzer, whom we were saying, boy, poor guy, he gets put into this tough matchup first time in. He just decides to turn it straight, and that will be the match.
Indeed. Igor was convinced he had ace-king or ace-queen there, not the jack-10.
It's a tough situation. I don't think you can fault either player, especially in a heads-up matchup in this type of scenario. It had to happen, and hey, we get to see beautiful hair for a second match. That's the good thing.
I was bigging up the hair, wasn't I, yesterday? And I'm glad I did, because it did not disappoint.
I believe you put a lot of pressure on both of them. George must have put extra stuff in that hair.
Whose hairs? I mean, Danzer won the match, the first game. But who's winning on the hair for you?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you like, Laura. You can go au naturel like Igor, the beautiful long locks, the flowing
like
locks.
Jesus hair almost,
That's right. And then he's in a very serene setting. And then you see George in a business-like setting, yet there's a party up there, so he's having a good time. But I think it was great to see both of them, by the way, both talking us through that hand. I'm really excited to see the next two matches. Hopefully they'll last more than one hand. I am almost guaranteeing it.
You've got it wrong already because you predicted it was going to go, well, it could still go 2-1, but we were thinking it might, the first game might go to Igor.
That's right. Had I known this was going to happen on the first hand, Laura, I might have chosen to make a different prediction, but I'm going to stick with it.
You can change it now?
No, I'm going to stick with it.
If you want?
Nope, sticking with it.
I think Igor's going to take this next one back.
Yeah, I think so. I think George, people that know George, he's such a good guy. Part of him, once he figures out what his opponent had, he's going to feel bad about how that hand turned out. George is that kind of guy. Just a great guy, a fun person. If ever you do see him on the tournament circuit, make sure to say hi. He is always willing to say hi, sign an autograph, have fun. So one of the nicest persons in poker.
Liv's going to whip Igor if he doesn't win this next one. So,
yeah,
but he might be, wanting that. He might enjoy that.
Liv was seen earlier outdoor in the outdoors area of their home, doing some work there. I think she best stay outdoors because I don't think Igor's going to be too much of a happy camper after this one.
The inside of their home looked like the outside of their home, though. It looked like he was in the forest.
That's right. For those that follow Liv Boré on Facebook, she had shown pictures of her new bedroom a few weeks ago. Really, really excited. For me, actually, this is my type of bedroom, Laura. I'd be really excited.
Who wouldn't want to see the insides of Liv Boré's bedroom?
That's right. Being in Malta, we don't see many trees and such, so it'd be great to have that in your bedroom.
Yeah. Well, that next game is coming up very shortly for you. The first one, if you missed it, well, it was over very, very quick. It was over in just one hand. George Danzer took that very first game. For the Paris Aviators, Fabrice Soulier wasn't happy after yesterday. He only managed to pick up 1 point for his team. He is the manager. He was playing for his team yesterday. George Danzer already beating him, though, picking up 3 points for the Paris Aviators. And they'll be shortening that gap now between the Hong Kong stars.
Right, and winning that first match, we keep on saying it, but it is important. It does change, that first game, sorry. It does change everything. George now relaxed, confident, knows that even if he drops this one, he still has another chance to put up 6 total points for the team. So, I think they're still in great shape, but it just goes to show that winning that first match, as we've seen time and time again already, even after week 3 or during week 3, it makes a big difference.
Even when it's just one hand?
Well, why not? He's on top of the world. George thinks that he's going to flop monsters or turn monsters from now on every single hand. He thinks there's like a bonus software available just for him.
Okay, we will find out. That next game is coming up. Igor versus George, the battle of the hair. Remember to get your comments into us as well on Twitter at GPL. Also use hashtag GPL and of course in the Twitch chat box too. Over to you boys, Sam and Griffin, take it away.
Thank you very much, Miss Cornelius. The camera is almost on me. There I am. What's up, guys? This is the GPL. I'm Griffin Benger. This is Sam Grafton. That was the quickest match in GPL history. I believe there might have been one other one that ended in one hand, but the poker gods are deciding that we're going to get Mike at an early night tonight. Very quick matches in the first games between Randy Lou and Jungle Man, and right out of the gate, 2 guys that aren't going to make a lot of mistakes, and just a huge cooler to start things up.
Yeah, of course. In poker, there are hand-over-hand situations where all the money is destined to go in. That was one of them. A flying start for George Danzer. Let's see if he can capitalize on it in this second and third match.
Electing to switch sides to maybe change up the luck here.
This one is a little bit more interesting.
Ace, Jack, 3. Ace, Jack, 3.
The way Igor's running, it'll probably be a...
Jack, 8-5, 2 hearts.
So I got to sulk a little bit over that hand. Could I fold it? Yes. Did I fold it? No.
So at least he's
nicely
That's a bit
summarized.
crazy. That's a fold, then I'm only calling the next best hand, which is Jack 10, given that he doesn't have 3-5 suited except for 3-5 clubs that often. Yeah. But maybe it is the better play to fold.
So the perfectionist Igor reflecting.
Very well might be, even though something is definitely wrong in the game tree.
Very interesting.
You can't value bet in the straight because the next best hand folds.
So Igor likes to call the 3 bets, right? So either We need a linear 3-betting range there. So we use queen jack.
Interesting that this is the sizing George goes for, 3.5x. I think this is a good strategy with someone like Igor's post-flop skills. I think you
It's
want to be
also
encouraging
a great way
folds.
to make yourself good about it. When you have someone value bet into you and you made a call which ended up being a bad result, just tell you, and it was direct next best hand, you can say, well, if I didn't call that, then how would he have a correct value bet, right? If I'm not calling aces, then how can he play Jack 10 like that? And if I assume that he's not doing things too wrongly, then that can't be that bad then, even though it's only a way to rationalize it after it's not fully true. Because you still want to just do whatever makes the most
Jack
money
4,
or
the
loses the least money.
jungle said Jack 4 is not good enough. So
Clearly
we have
wasn't
to
the
trust the
jungle.
jungle.
Want a hand? That's good. I noticed in the video that my screen is a bit shaking, but I guess that's just like a real outside situation here.
So Igor, obviously a little bit shell-shocked. Obviously, you know, he's played for huge amounts of money and understands, you know, the nature of the game and that these kind of beats happen, but seems a bit retreated a bit into his shell. And we have two strong holdings here, heads up, for sure. And if George says he's going to 3-bet linear...
How aggro George is in heads up hold'em. I don't know how much he's played. Played with him some no limit, 100k actually. Played pretty well, but it's not his main variant. So we'll see how he divides it so far. It's called Jack 10 pretty correctly, and he's 3-bet twice out of 4 hands. Actually, both opportunities. 2 out of 2. 100% 3-bet. What a guy.
So this is one of the downsides to 3-betting linearly. Obviously, a hand like 8 in a 3-bet pot doesn't always flop super well. Very difficult decisions when overcards come. That's why some players like to keep the pot small with this hand. Obviously, upsides and downsides to the different strategies.
We'll probably see that fairly often when he doesn't hit. Check call and he does with a 9 and a 4 and a king 10 maybe can come in.
Especially against a player like Igor, who recognises immediately the strength of King Jack in this situation versus a check. Immediately starting to bet for value. Perhaps a more inexperienced player would check this back.
I guess.
And George, with a disciplined check fold, which against Igor's hand here was definitely a correct decision.
Yeah, I really think these guys are going to be, you know, maybe one of the best heads-up matches we can find here at the GPL. Just unbelievable poker talents. Eccentric, beautiful, really fun to watch.
King high is too good to make a continuation bet.
Yeah, George certainly with a more controlled strategy than Randy Liu, who
Play a bit
was
faster to get more hands
c-betting
in deep.
at a very high frequency.
Not sure if George plays slow to not do so.
How many 8s is there? That I still beat 10-8. Jack 8, Queen 8, King 8. Not that many hands.
Disciplined fold there, but you know the breakdown really he really understood.
Queen 4 suited.
Yeah, interesting.
Queen 4 off.
Couple of times.
Impressed so far with George Dandler's thought process?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's save the hero calls for later.
And showing that the thought process, you know, again, we've talked about it before. One of the great things about GPL is we're seeing what these long tanks from very good players, you know, the kind of thought processes they're going through. Here, George Danzer thinking about all the 8x and 4x that he's ahead of before he makes that fold. And yeah, really interesting stuff to see. Also interesting to pick up on something Igor said. You know, he said he wanted to play fast to get in as many hands as he can. Igor obviously feeling that, you know, without being overly confident, he has an edge over George Danzer and wants to act quickly in order to make the most of these deep stack depths. And so that's really interesting adjustment and not something we've heard from many players up to this point.
Jack and Jill went up the hill, and they met up with Igor Kurganov. Pocket jacks for Igor here. Starting to think that the beautiful backdrop and live in Igor's bedroom now is intended to maybe use this for the GPL as well for Igor, or do you think he's just playing wherever he wants to play?
What do you mean?
It's like a wallpaper in their bedroom. It's amazing. It's they put it on Facebook the other day. I have not been there. I didn't see it. It wasn't like a don't give me the freaking big timing thing. Eric mentioned it. If you ever listen to Eric and Laura in there, but
I just shut down when we go to the lounge, mate. I'm off.
Yeah, seriously.
It's actually good if the other doesn't defend 100%.
But yeah, they got this amazing wallpaper thing done. So I wonder if it was always intention, just as based off kind of personality is to always have that backdrop, or he's just kind of playing wherever he wants to play.
I guess it just chills you out, yeah?
Yeah,
kind of backdrop.
yeah. I would love to wake up to that, wouldn't you?
Felt when I was
Pretty
watching
sweet.
the other matches.
It's like huge. It's like a massive canvas.
Little insight into the lives of the rich and famous there from Griffin Benja.
Oh my God, never stops.
It's so funny.
Getting good hands. That's how they lure you in.
George with a very loose open on the button against someone of Igor's caliber. Not going to work out in this instance with Igor picking up the 210s. He has had some very, very strong hands. If you're just joining us late, you can see at the bottom, 1-0 already, 3 points secured for the Paris Aviators. An incredible hand, first hand of the match. Igor Kurganov, 3-bet aces.
So much faster
Came
than him.
ace, king, 3, a queen on the turn. George Danzer had jack 10
pigs.
and stacked him. And 2 strong holdings here yet again.
George trying to find the best answer for his ace-10 conundrum. Does he want to 3-5 it? Does he just want a flat? Does he want a 3-bet to fold? A lot of different ways this hand can go, but certainly an extremely strong hand for 55 big blinds.
And once again, you know, we saw George say he was going to use this linear strategy of 3-betting the top percentage of hands. You can get yourself in trouble, you know?
And that's the other thing too, is that we
Again,
see
flop not the best for the hand. I 3-betted this one. Would have been better with the 8s.
just a battle of wits. It's really fun to watch as two really highly intelligent poker minds analyzing and discussing their thought process. Really special here at the GPL.
Tank. That's a good idea. It's a good start.
George recognizing that no better hand
Let's just do we
when he c-bets.
stick around with the ace 10.
But strong range, strong hand, equity, so that's better.
You can see the small bet sizing by Igor really kind of manipulating and setting things up for he can do these things with bluffs, but it makes it very difficult for George to really know how to proceed, right? Because he just, by betting these small amounts, he's kind of creating more streets of action, whether like check raising or when the pot's more inflated on the turn river. So really interesting to see the kind of bet sizing of a super talent, super high roller talent like Igor Kurganov.
Yeah.
And again,
George Danzer paying to fold.
But makes the right decision once
I think
again.
so far I stabbed up to his checks, so he should.
Another very playable hands once again here.
Play what? 15 hands.
Guys, follow the conversation at GPL. Let us know if you like the new 4-color deck. I haven't heard any complaints. Personally, I'm loving it here at the GPL. It's a change that we implemented yesterday. So, that's something you can discuss. You can discuss how you like the the stream, how you like us, how you like the players, just whatever you guys want to discuss. You know, any constructive criticism. We're still in the early stages of this operation, so we're really
No,
happy to
thank
hear
you.
from you guys.
Yeah, if you're enjoying the stream, that's at Squid Poker. Tweet to me. If you're not enjoying it so much and you've got some complaints, you're looking at Alex Dreyfus. Let him know.
Oh, I thought you were going to throw me under the bus there.
Let-
Let's just go right for the boss.
Let him know if you have any problems. He wants to hear all about your complaints and concerns. At Alex Dreyfus.
You can also find him at his personal email, Alex.
Usually that means that when I check, I don't have a bluff. So you should kind of believe me.
So as you can see, Igor decided to check back this flop because he decided that he doesn't have bluffs when he checks back. He has a lot of
looks like
showdown
the timer
value.
ran out. This means that he now knows that I'm using linear 3-betting ranges, right? So
Also, we flopped about
Wow.
we have to change that up now.
4, 7, 8 suited.
No.
And as you
Amazing
can't bet all
metagame
this
here.
necessarily the hand.
So
I want to see bet with, especially if I don't
to
see bet
level
100%.
here and continue with the
Really goes to show how much
That'll be the
seriously these
first
guys are
one to
taking
go.
it.
Kinda something. I assume he's c-betting a lot. Arrows. So cheap. Let's see that.
improved a little bit here. He doesn't have too many outs if he has ace high
You wanna bet me off my ace high or what?
or queen high to call. Might use a random bluff or even value bet himself if he has ace 4.
Good thing is we don't stand to lose much in that hand. Oof.
No, this is not the best one.
Now we're check raising down the end.
Brian O'Shea on Twitch comments, I
We
hate
don't need
listening to
bluff.
their thought
Usually we bet
process
here. I hope it's not gonna be the curse
because
of
it
the
exposes what a button clicker I am.
Yes,
I think.
Is he calling with
Me too,
ace high
buddy.
here?
Me too.
If I value bet. Is he calling with ace high? I guess he's not calling that often with ace high, and he might check raise here.
Unfortunate. Giotto.
George K playing very
Plus 50
cagily,
work check jamming, huh?
but it's really worked out with him. The
Yeah.
ace 10,
Probably
the
only
eights
has
that were outflopped,
couple of
and again there
outs.
with the worst hand. Not wanting to put in bets badly against someone of Igor's caliber, and it's a
But we
strategy,
see it.
a cautious strategy, but one which is paying dividends at the moment.
42.
3-bet call.
So we need like
Just
25%.
shit.
No less, 20% to call. Our hand has pretty much 20% against his hand. Great result.
So analytical, these guys.
Especially if we get there 100% of the time.
And not a lot of people at home will know this, but Igor, coming from a math background, that's what he studied in school, and it's really his his expertise. I forget exactly precisely what it was, but comes from a very analytical and mathematical brain. He really breaks things down using numbers, whereas like someone like me, like I'm more like a field player, No, but I've had like some conversations with him where he's just breaking down the probabilities and stuff, and that's when he's thinking, that's really what he's thinking about. He, like with that hand where he got lucky, he's
Then
like,
we can fold from the bottom.
I was 20%, and I got there 100% of the time, so it's a great result. It's all math based. It's really, really interesting, and it can give you an
Very
insight
foldable hand.
into how genius level smart some of the top super high roller winners are. Igor was such an incredible pedigree. So many huge wins on the big stage, super high roller championships, 25K challenge in Aussie Millions, second in the 100K at Aussie Millions. Just an unbelievable talent here at the GPL.
He will overplay top set on occasions, though.
Yeah, every once in a while,
Yeah.
top set heads up.
He gets married to top set of aces like
Or live one day. Those
like
are the only
a
things too.
recreational player.
Those are the only two things that I ever think he'll get married to. Olivia Burry and top set.
Do you have an offsuit jack there with left and heart? Probably.
CSX 427 comments, Igor would look fine with Princess Leia haircut. I agree. Get those buns going.
Probably not.
You can see how much longer George taking with his decisions. Obviously used up 6 more minutes than Igor of his clock. Really, probably because George is, as we said, most well known as a mixed game player. Heads up a little bit newer to him or less familiar with than Igor is. And Igor, with the best hand, rivering strongly and can now value bet. George smartly getting away from his hand. Do you see, I mean, we talked about it several times, there are incredibly contrasting styles amongst these top players. The frequency with which Randy Lou bet flops and turns, with like, for instance, like that, a queen high flush draw. He was c-betting those hands all the time. George, much more cautious with a high check back frequency. A lot more precise about whether he's betting for value or betting for a bluff and controlling his frequencies. Really interesting to see.
The Jack 10 against Ace's hand got to his head, huh? 3-4 offsuit. No respect. I'll start limping very soon. And then probably limp. A lot of hands. Fold. Very little hands.
30 bigs.
Raise some good and some bad. To summarize.
Pretty actiony flop here, considering none of them actually making a pair. Igor with the gut shot and the flush draw. George Danzer with the gut shot, the ace high, and the backdoor nut flush draw.
Quite well.
Sorry, they both have backdoor flush draws.
2. Should probably get bigger here. Generally, I'd rather look 4,000 here than like 2.5, but
I think I like this hand as a bluff here.
not really being balanced, I think.
We can turn a couple of cards where we can ship it in.
Maybe we can't get away with it.
Well played by George Danzer there.
Could have check called too. Those were the 2 options. But I'd rather turn it into a bluff, make him fold a 7 or a 10 depending on the turn card. If he calls a check raise and then the turn card sucks, I can still give up.
We fold it sometimes, but we have an ante.
Really creates a lot of action, this ante in play in the heads up. Igor, not the first person on the GPL to mention that. Means you have to defend extra wide, play more pots, because you're losing so much each hand.
Should check raise out a bit more. Let's see if it's too much as the opener. Time to limp.
So I have to play even faster now.
It's not a light check caller.
Let's do a sprint here.
Can't like that either. Oof. Hold second nuts again? No.
Igor forced to pay off with the bottom end of the straight, and
Stacks even up, yep.
Very, very even now. Just to remind you again, if you're just joining us, you can see on the bottom of the screen, first match went to George Danzer of the Paris Aviators.
In one of our quickest heads-up matches, just one hand pocket aces for Igor Kurganov against the Jack-10 offsuit of George Danzer on an Ace-King 4 flop. Turn was a queen. That was all she wrote. A river was a deuce. All the money went in, and George secured a quick 3 points for the Paris Aviators in the EurAsia division.
Very quick checkbacks. Otherwise, often they see that. Do not fold.
Igor opting to use a limping strategy with, 100% of his range right now. Hasn't really folded any buttons, but he's going to get punished here with the very beautiful King Queen of Hearts of George Danzer. Punished.
I think I'd be raising bigger than 3x against Igor.
Good channel.
You're going to want to check a lot of hands there. I think like you can make it 4x with your good hands and make it 4x with some bluffs.
But don't you feel like, I understand what you're talking about with balance.
Stop talking.
But with a hand like King Queen suited in particular, it flops so well, and he's going to flop so many worse queens and kings. Don't you want him to maybe stick around pre-flop?
Yeah, well, I think you need a strategy for your entire. I don't think it's hard to balance two sizing. It's hard to balance one sizing, let alone two sizing. Obviously, with that hand, yeah, cool sizing. But like, I think like, let's start things off like we're going to have one sizing. Yeah.
Come on, just attack me. So I had no choice but to raise my crap, right?
320, 32, plus 8, 40, 25 bigs. It's close.
Tough flop here for George Danzer, but scary enough that, probably won't go broke by the river depending on the run out.
There's the timer going. So, okay, we have to change
The faster we play, probably the more likely he's gonna get to
So depending on what I roll, that's my
because he has less time to think about it beforehand.
Amazing.
Such a shame we're missing George here. I believe he's telling us he's randomizing
So people who follow my stream know what this means.
He's randomizing his strategy based on the roll of the dice to be balanced against Igor. Really delving into the world of game theory here.
It's gonna be a mess.
Really cool to see. Wow. The hell was I doing playing this game? These guys are on another level.
Just want to see what happens. Plays 4 more minutes. Half-pot snap. Bad river. Bad.
This one is complicated. With the
Should put him
sevens.
here to the test. But
Igor does give it up on the river, and George, who wasn't looking forward to facing
If
him
he
back.
bets the river, because he can't have 4s, 5s, and 6s, he would have just repushed those. I can't find a hand where he bets for value that I still beat.
it's also a hand we could fold.
I guess I would have folded.
Won't.
The match swinging a little back in George's favour. Still very hard to pick a winner, but does have a 3-1 chip
Less than
advantage
20
at
bigs.
the moment.
Have to limp a couple of hands.
Been a feature of many, many matches we've seen. The limper gets to win these ace-high flops. Such a high frequency. We've seen that time and time again, haven't we, over the last couple of weeks?
Absolutely. George does need to be careful about one factor, though. A lot of controversy about the hot seat, just in the sense
Calling is
that once it
fine,
happens,
repushing is
it's
fine.
really, really tough to stay in the fray. So only 3.5 minutes left.
I think repushing is the easier.
All
way
in
to
and
go
a
with
call.
Queen 9 suited. Oh,
George Danzer needing a queen or a 9.
perfect, but okay.
27%.
9 on the turn, and now Igor needs an ace or a king.
Really unlucky here for Igor Kurganov. Just the nature
That
of the
2-0
game.
was a little bit lucky.
Big result. Another 3 points for the Paris Aviators and George Danzer.
Okay. GG, George.
Unlucky turn of events through 2 matches for Igor Kurganov. It's amazing, how different our reactions can be when you compare, what's happening to someone like Igor here, where he's really explaining his thought process and clearly playing exceptionally well, but just running bad compared to, some of the reactions we may have had with players where maybe they ran bad in one match and then sort of started making some mistakes that we would point out. Igor pretty much can play like one of the most perfect poker players. I mean, there's so many different ways you can play the game, but this is a guy so analytical, so mathematical, so cerebral, and to see him, run bad here against George, I mean, if you're going to run bad against George Danzer, you're going to lose a lot of matches because he is an exceptional talent as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew about Igor's quality in No Limit Hold'em coming into this match. George Danzer, amazing results at the World Series, mainly in mixed games. We didn't know so much about how sharp his No Limit Hold'em game is. I think we can see that he is a very, very talented No Limit Hold'em player. The reason for Fabrice Soulier picking him for the Paris Aviators is now very clear to us. Obviously, there he needed to get a little bit lucky, getting it in, Queen 9 suited versus Ace King. Obviously, he's had the rub of the green, but, giving us an insight into his thought process, taking it so seriously that, we slightly missed it on the comms, but using a rolling of the dice to randomize his 3-bet strategy. When he announced his strategy on the stream, setting a timer on his phone to make himself aware of when Igor gets to realize that information and then readjusting his strategy. I mean, this is someone who, I've mentioned various people who don't seem fully prepared for the 6-max format or the heads-up format, haven't done their homework.
Like.
George Danzer knows that if he's going to be able to compete with Igor Kurganov, he needs to do his preparation immaculately. We're seeing him implementing new strategies we haven't seen up to now. And, fair play, he's getting the reward, 6 points on the board for the Paris Aviators.
Yeah, I think it's also a reflection of, a lot of people talk about poker players, like they're lazy or like, they're not going to take this seriously because it's not for a lot of money. Man, I think we're really learning. I mean, even with Jungleman, for instance, someone who, at first was getting frustrated, maybe playing games on the side or, misclicking this and that. Even though he did have that unfortunate misclick today, you saw him make that really big, tight fold with the straight where, the way things have gone, he could have easily just thought, you know what, screw this, whatever, I'm not folding this. But he really felt like he was losing there, so he made a big fold and to leave himself with 10 big blinds. I mean, that's how much even he's taking it seriously. You look at guys like this. I mean, this is what you were complaining about. You didn't think people were prepared enough. You didn't think they weren't taking it seriously enough, and that's just maybe a reflection of the way that they've been able to coast with poker right now with GPL. With everything that's going on, George Danzer, this kind of preparation, if you want to win that first prize at Wembley Stadium, if you want to go and you want to do it for your country, this is what you have to do. And he's showing that preparation, the randomization, just amazing stuff to see from George Danzer.
Yeah, and of course, great for the Paris Aviators competing at the top of the table. I think Eric and Laura will tell us a little bit about that now.
Indeed, we will. George Danzer for the Paris Aviators. They're 6 points now. That is 2 games out of 3. Can Igor win the last one? You've got it wrong, Eric.
Yes, I've got it wrong. Congratulations on Paris, by the way. That Hong Kong lead was short while it lasted. Paris now first in the Eurasian Conference officially, as they have officially won that match. So they're tied on points. An extra win for Paris. Yeah, I think Igor wins this match. I think, to be honest, Laura, they need to win this match. I think they're 9 points back already. They'll be 12 points back if they lose that. So suddenly the London Royals, everyone's favorite out of the Eurasian Conference, could be 12 points away from the top spot. And we keep on mentioning it. The first goal in this league is to win the Eurasian Conference. So I don't know, and to be honest, Igor Kurganov should never lose 3 heads-up matches, should never fare not so well in 6-max matches. So I think it's Liv's first-round pick. She really expects a lot out of Igor, but I mean, again, he was all in with a favorable hand and lost it on the turn again, the evil turn for Igor Kurganov.
Evil turn, and the pressure was on because Liv managed to win her 6-max game yesterday. She was a manager and she was doing good for her team. Igor's got to get it together for this last Thursday.
Yeah, Liv picked up points in both of those matches, including that 7 points in for her victory. So big valuable points. Igor sits at 0. The max he'll get is 3. I think you see that beautiful bedroom. I think one of them might not be sleeping in there this weekend.
We interviewed Liv after the match that she won yesterday as well, and she did say they've been skewing a little. They've been having a few arguments. Igor thinking he's team captain or whatnot.
Well, he assumed as first round pick that would happen, but Liv putting the foot down, saying no. Actually checking with the rest of the teammates, Liv said. So we'll see what happens next. But all this being told, Igor Kurganov remains one of the top poker players in the world. So let's not go crazy here. But let's actually talk about George Danzer, who's set himself well, playing a little weird strategy by rolling the dice once in a while once the timer hits. You would have seen that if you're a George Danzer fan on Twitch. He does that while he plays on his Twitch channel. So for those that aren't too familiar with George, yeah, he's switching things up by the roll of the dice, which is always fun as well.
He's a great guy, George Danzer. I like him.
Great guy. And then a great pick by Fab, as we can see, 6 points. The team manager didn't even come close to those 6 points yesterday. So again, as a team manager, what you want is your players to score those points. And then if you don't get them, it's fine, as long as you made the good point.
I'm pretty sure Fabrice will be happy no matter what.
Absolutely. I mean, he knows now that he'll be finishing the week at the top, so I think they'll be okay.
What do you think to the poker? We saw a little bit more poker in that last game compared to the first one, which was over in one hand.
Right.
What did you think? Quite level the way they were playing?
Yeah, absolutely. Igor grabbed the lead early and kept the lead, kept the momentum going for the first little while. Then George just grinded his way back into the lead, and just the one hand at the end that Igor could not win that flip, and unfortunately he's lost the match. So yeah, a lot of poker there, a lot of great poker. It's fun to hear these two guys talk as well. They talk strategy like no one else does. So great match. As a poker fan myself, I'm very excited by the turns and events of this one so far.
Well, let us know your thoughts as always. Who do you think is going to win this very last game of Igor Kurganov and George Danzer? That is Paris versus London. Who do you think is going to win the third game? This is 9 points now. All three games are worth obviously 3 points each, so each heads-up match is worth 9 points, and they always play no matter who wins the first two. Let us know on Twitter at GPL, #GPL. Get your comments into us. Who do you think is going to win the league as well? Right, let's hand over to our desk. Let's go to this third and final match of the evening for Paris versus London.
Hey guys, I'm Griffin Benger, joined by Sam Grafton. That was Eric Danny being like, Mike! You're here at the GPL. This is week 3. Igor Kurganov versus George Danzer. A great first two matches. The first one only going one hand. Second one, a little more action, and an unfortunate turn of events for Igor once the stacks got a bit more shallow.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic news for the Paris Aviators, that's for sure. Obviously, London Royals, as we said, pre-league favourites, had such a stellar lineup, but the run of the cards isn't seeming to go their way. So that also with Justin Bonomo in the 6 max matches. Everything coming up Paris Aviators at the moment. George Danzer, they're getting the best of it in a 60-40. Obviously, huge caller to start things off. But also the other great news for Paris Aviators is not just luck running their way, but they've if they weren't sure about it before, we know we've got a great no-limit hold'em player in the form of George Danzer, someone that's studious, someone that's taking it super seriously, someone that's, thinking about all factors, the webcam, the playback, really adjusting to the new, unique format of the GPL, and that's super exciting for Paris fans.
Yeah, for as far as London fans are concerned, I wouldn't be too worried about the Royals. We're talking about hundreds of games they're going to be playing. This is just sort of one of those, things that comes with, the variance of playing someone as strong as George Danzer and the luck not going their way. I still think this is the favorite amongst the EurAsian teams, to be honest with you, but Paris Aviators, like I said, I really think that they're sort of the FC Barcelona to their Real Madrid kind of thing. So this is a great clash of titans here. You see George, you see Igor still a smile on his face, knowing variance has not been on his side, and obviously wanting to squeeze out 3 points for the London Royals.
And there you see at the bottom of your screen, if you're just joining us, what we were just talking about, George Danzer, 2 games to 0 up. Just to remind you guys, it's not a best of 3 situation. Each individual match worth 3 points, so 6 points secured for the Paris Aviators. Igor Kurganov can win 3 here for
he's
London.
Forcing me into this one.
Wow.
I'm glad he forced me into this one.
And this is a board where Igor has way the stronger range. Ace high going to be good a lot
How
of
do
the
I
time.
play this? Let's make the pot a little bit bigger.
And if George knew what Igor had, he would just call, I'm pretty sure.
I don't see him barreling off too often on this kind of boards. Hands that he would not call a check raise with. So he played a little bit faster than you would expect quads to be played. Nah, let's go for another check raise here.
And bad news for Igor Kurganov on the river.
So he has ace high, right? He would bet every overpair on the turn.
I doubt he'd check a 5. Not that many pairs that beat me. I would 3 with 8s at least.
He's not turning ace high in a bluff. No need to induce with a small
Very hard
bet.
to
If I do an
bluff check raise,
overbet,
check.
it's good against
Bet
overpairs.
is-
If he checked it, overbet is good against overpairs. 2/3 of the pot probably good against ace high. Let's go with pot then.
Pot size bet.
Sometimes
Wow.
it calls with ace high.
Well, things I have an ace high. Basically do. Because he's not doing that with deuces or threes.
Another extremely tough
Not
spot here
doing
for
it with
Igor
the
Kurganov.
Jack 4 either. Or something, 7, 8, 9, 6, 5, 6, I think. He just a bit smaller. Might have been on a check raise with a 5 there. The turn again.
Igor working it through.
Tank plus big bet wins it.
And great fold from Igor.
Yeah, it really goes to show that even when things aren't going Igor's way, he can find the right decision, folding a full house.
Fold the top of our range, yeah.
Yeah, folding the top of his range like he just remarked. Really amazing.
And I think that is, it's really so interesting to see these great minds at work because, you know, we talked about in that first match about perhaps the questionability of raising with the nuts on the turn, that perhaps you're only, you know, you can't balance that with bluffs easily enough.
That
Yeah.
he would
Attacking
fold
board.
now.
And here we get a similar situation
So without equity, not barreling through.
where George check raises a very, very strong hand, and he does allow Igor to get away from towards the top of his range, or indeed the top of his range. And that's the problem. If you make these unbalanced plays, great players will pick up on it quickly and adjust their strategies to make big folds. And very costly for George Danzer. And Igor turning king high into a bluff.
Yeah, just to make sure that you know, he doesn't lose it showdown to say a 4, 3, or a 2. Even better king highs like king 10, king queen.
Probably bluffed with the best hand then, but his weaker hands only have queen 10 or something. Queen 9.
Let's hope that the deuce is good. He definitely would value bet the queen here because I would have value bet the king myself. So he can have a queen. Would make sense. Checking behind that flop is a queen a fair amount of the times. Then the king he still cannot bet. And now he makes the value bet. Sometimes even an 8. No hero here.
George Danzer working things through incredibly precisely here. You see the hand reading about abilities of these top players. And Igor going on the attack here with the Queen of Diamonds. Recognizes that George doesn't check back
Do I have
flush
to call
draws
one barrel?
at a high frequency.
Let's say he only bets if he has an ace, a 10, or a diamond in his hand.
Perfect breakdown here from George Danzer, knowing exactly where he's at.
George? You want to fold? That's fine. Fold now or fold river? Your choice. Hard choice.
And
Not sure about this one, but sure about the ones
You lose more
before.
if you call turn, fold river.
This one felt wrong.
I think it's interesting because it also gives away something about your range when you tank for that long as well. Like with, you know, ace 4 with the 4 of diamonds, it's an easy call on the turn. And once you take that long, it's very hard to...
Screw consistency.
Huge flop for Igor here.
Bad turn card for his particular holding.
Do
And
not lead. Thank you.
And not a great river for Igor either. George is going to have a lot of ace highs when he check calls this flop.
Is he checking a 7 behind? He's checking ace behind. I cannot value bet. I would be only value betting against king high.
Oh no, that's a free. No way.
They would have insta called and I would have value bet myself.
Run out, which really froze the action there.
Image fold.
Great turn card for George Danzer.
Not a good card for us. So small.
Another card he's barreling too much after I check call the flop, as we saw before.
I would vote yes.
And both players flopping straight draws. George Danzer with the burst
Do
draw.
bet, George. Your
And-
first check raise of the night.
And as we can see, actually the best hand.
Thank you.
And Igor on the attack with this holding, with a backdoor flush draw and a gut shot. And it seems very unlikely to me that with a Up and down straight draw, 2, 3, 4, 5. George Danzer is going to be relinquishing just yet. But that is an interesting turn card.
That is an interesting card.
Igor, by check raising, some of his hands are going to be flush draws. And with the jack of diamonds in his hand,
Of
he
course,
may
the
go on the
flush
attack.
draws, a lot of them are in his check raising range too.
George Danzer just repeating what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I'll tell George not to do that in future. And Igor, such a strong sense of where he is in the hand.
You can easily check that behind because we can get the value we get right now from 2 pair. We can get on the river for sure. And the queen is covering flush draws. And if he made the flush, it's bad to bet anyway, so I'm fine with
Check
checking.
4 no or something we should have just bet. Sure, how we make an ace fold now.
Igor,
Now on the
tough
river,
spot
you're
after
running
tough
quite
spot.
small, something like
Finds himself
25,
at the river with
and call a check raise.
somehow with just jack 6 high. Not an enviable position to ever find yourself in. And goes for a
Yeah, if he
huge
bets
bet.
huge, we just have to call. It sucks because he has some flushes, but after we check behind the turn, it was to get some value on the river, right? So folding now would be just crazy.
George Danzer going to make the call. Bad
Once that business.
news for Igor
Yeah, he
Kurganov.
used the gut shot to check raise the flop,
I didn't expect him to fold that hand.
which makes sense. And then he has
And I
the
didn't expect him to always check that back. So well done.
check
George.
blocker for the flush.
Really well played
Good
by
bluff.
George Danzer.
Yeah.
And
If he bet the turn, no more value from the hand. As
Exactly.
it was,
I
that
feel
check
good
back
about the check
worth
behind on the
18,000.
turn with the straight.
Just wanted to get him off an ace or pair or 2 pair. Guess you would have folded an ace if you thought about it for a little bit of time with the 5. That had a diamond. Maybe I just need trying to make myself feel good, which is fine as long as you're still playing, right? After the game, make yourself feel bad. During the game, make yourself feel good.
Obviously, even a player as successful as Igor, you've got to feel a little bit sorry for him. Obviously, it's difficult being on web camera and, you know, a little bit more pressure just because you're exposed to the public gaze a little bit more, and things just really going against him in this match against his countryman, George Danzer.
Didn't happen.
And again,
This could be race here.
he's
Because with less than 25 bigs, most of the aces he's gonna reship, right?
He has an ace. He
But
will
we
go.
can't be sure about that. Maybe he wants to take the variance out a little bit and does just call with ace 6, ace 5 off the same hands that I
Another
did
misstep
with.
here by Igor Kurganov, and he's definitely going to feel like he's been getting outclassed a bit, but there's just a few hands where
And there wasn't too much
You know,
value raising against the
I feel like George
forehand
has the top of his
in there.
range.
well, it's
He's
just a
got
situation
straights, yeah.
where Igor ends up on the river with jack 6 high, deuce 4 high. You know, the worst hands he gets to the river with time and time again is forced to bluff, and George has a straight. If you have high card and the other person has straight, it's very hard to fire your way out of that situation.
Igor opting to limp here on 20 big blinds with the pocket threes. Obviously, the intention would be to shove over a raise. Danzer doesn't bite with the Doyle Brunson.
Wow. We're going for 3 out of 3.
Obviously, you can tell a little,
It was one of my goals to go for 3 out of 3.
just to win though. Little frustration maybe, but
Yeah, and he's definitely not out of it. We've seen, obviously, we saw Tyler Kenny come
Nice
back
to
from
be
2 big blinds and 1 big
limping
blind.
with some crap,
Igor 20 bigs.
so he can't repush that profitable. But still, 10 high is a fine hand and heads up.
I think I missed looking up a hand from before. Oh, actually, no.
Question is, do we try to bluff him off an 8? doesn't make too much sense in a limped pot to try to bluff him off an 8. I don't have too many aces. I'm not gonna go for 3 streets of value with a jack. Now the question is it time for the hero call? Not too many aces.
This is, of course, the value of checking some aces behind.
He's not bluffing king high. This feels like he hit the random jack somehow with something like jack 9 or jack 10 that he decided to check out of the big blind. And then he check calls because against the limped hand from the button, jack high is still good. Maybe even queen jack. And now he has an easy value bet with the jack. Somehow it feels like it.
George, not quite correct, but gives up the hands and
Still no
saves
hero call.
3K.
I'm gonna find one.
Yeah, it's more about most of the time he's going to have some Jack X combinations, and because he's taking a lot of aces out of Igor's range, checking back 20 big blinds effective. So, Igor also playing deceptively there.
Yeah. And George Danzer got, for whatever reason, even if it's not exactly naming the hand, getting almost every decision right here. Going for that value shove, full pot, all in the first match. Checking behind the straight here in the third match. One of the ways variance manifests itself, but, everything he seems to do has gone right so far. Here, his kicker going to play as well with the 6.
Yeah, and you had some questions coming into this match, considering Danzer, more of like a mixed game pedigree with all the success.
He's gonna call with a 5.
Well,
but proven that he's just an unbelievable skill player at any discipline, really.
for sure, and he's putting a bet here, and Igor once again with a tough decision with an excellent fold. Yeah, I mean, in terms of George's background, it's just simply like
5 or 4.
if you're one of the top 5 mixed games players in the world or whatever he is, one of the best mixed games players at the World Series year on year, how are you this good at No Limit Hold'em? I mean, it seems like it's hard work enough to master 8 other games.
Yeah,
I can't expect him to be good at Hold'em. It was no disrespect to him. It was just a situation
For
of
sure.
like,
No, yeah. I mean, he's just made such a fan out of me and you, and I think a bunch of the people on the Twitch stream are just seeing his hand when he was correctly calling the Queen 8 situation on the Ace Queen X turn King, check to the river, value bet when he had the deuce. Perfectly breaking down, put him on a Queen 8 type hand. Just unbelievable stuff from George Danzer.
So there's a lot of draws here.
and Igor gets to the river once again with just jack high. Just can't make a hand.
Yeah. Sounds good. I wouldn't call it a hero call, but
Discipline limped here from Igor. Instead of shoving the 12 big blinds with King 4, he's probably going to get a shove now from George, and dodges a bullet by not shoving.
See what George does.
I should raise. Of course, we have to call a push here if you do that.
Very small sizing, but Igor gives it up.
You can definitely call. We'll wait for it better.
With the antes, this should be a push.
Let's wait for another one again.
Good fold from Igor there.
George Danzer in a huge chip lead. Igor Kurganov up against the ropes, getting dealt 4-7 off isn't going to help.
How many bigs was that? I guess it was a call.
Still in the mix. Still in the game. Boom. That's what we wanted.
Let's
go. Tough luck.
And as you can see in the bottom,
And good luck.
George Danzer 2 games to 1 up and in good shape to make a very
It's 8
unexpected
big
sweep
blinds.
of Igor Kurganov.
Queen 7 off. It's exactly the cutoff.
The computer
Do I
hand here
feel
for
the
George.
Queen 7 off, or do I feel something better? Is he pushing more or less than you should?
8 blinds charge. You should call him Queen 7.
Wow.
That's all the hint I'm gonna
I
give.
don't feel the Queen 7 off.
I think Igor is pushing
Actually,
a
I
little
should
less
ask
than.
the dice.
Yeah.
We have to ask the dice. They know shit. 7. I have to reroll. 11. Oh, it's a call. Let's go.
Queen high call.
Queen 7 off.
No help for George Danzer. Queen or a 7 and will end this match.
Come on, Queen.
Igor Kurganov deserves a little bit of luck. I hope the ace high holds
For
here.
sure.
The dice. Always the same.
George Danzer showing a little bit of the eccentricity he's famed for. And
Even
he
if
will
I'm
have to
not gonna
battle
call Queen
on.
7 anymore.
Yeah, I should be calling like 45% there.
Igor checking the aces and letting George catch a little piece of the board.
Not even
Maybe a
thinking
little
about
bit
it.
less. Okay, I'm not asking. The dice are going into the box.
Just because I think that if he had absolutely nothing, that
Not to
Queen,
come out until the next charity.
and he wouldn't bet. If he was ever limping it, kept on it. Especially with the ace of hearts, I could definitely check out that one. But I don't think he's barreling through the bottom, so if he has a pair, I just want him to go with it.
And this is where, this is a hand obviously where the small raise size he's employed earlier is going to be of a great benefit because he has actually gone, yeah.
Now
About,
we've got the stack.
yeah.
Well, that's more me than you. It's not you, that's me. It's all me.
That's
Stay out of it.
Not much.
And a big
You bet so much.
sizing.
It's not like you're gonna check fold from the street. Seems like it is all you as well, huh?
Igor Kurganov, so good. Limp calling king 4, flopping a pair, but recognizing the strength of George Danzer's bet on that texture, which generally suits the button limp calling range and makes folds bottom pair of just 15 big blinds.
Could
Very
have gone either
impressive.
way. Okay, not great turn. If we get some calls from 7 still, then we can need some money out there. Not
Hands
many
that
tens he
don't
has. He
report
has many
with this
sevens.
stack
Look at
size.
speed
They're
on this check down.
stacked with 10s and 9s.
Ace size and 6s and 8s and nothing necessarily.
George Danzer, these guys going tit for tat. Igor Kurganov with a disciplined fold. George Danzer doing exactly the same, recognizing how good it was for their range. And here we might have the confrontation.
I just jam, raise call, jam.
Igor all in. George Danzer
Snap.
calls and a
Flip.
crucial flip.
That.
George Danzer, Binks top pair,
Blue, blue. No, it's
2
that.
6s in the deck. Otherwise, George Danzer completes the shutout.
Nice.
Too late for the blue.
Breeze will be happy.
Congratulations.
3 out of 3.
A cool match.
Unfortunate heads-up debut for Igor Kurganov of the London Royals. to draw a guy like George Danzer of the Paris Aviators, for him to play as well as he did, and also to run as poor as Igor did. Every bluff he seemed to make, especially in that third match, running into the top of the range of George Danzer. Every little trick, nook and cranny that George employed seemed to work out for him. Bad luck for Igor, but George Danzer, I mean, what an amazing player.
Yeah, what a great debut for George Danzer. Showed his class throughout, showed the preparation that he's put in, knowing his ranges, the push-fold ranges, and what hands to call with. When it's a cuspy decision, letting a randomizer aid his decision. Really, really impressive from George. Igor, obviously, anytime he's on the felt, we're going to see, his class and, what an excellent poker player is. But, George did his preparation and it paid off. Huge 9 points, really unexpected. I think all of us predicted Igor was the favorite coming into this match. But the Aviators is going to be over the moon, already top of the table, adding 9 points to their tally. Really impressive stuff. And it looks an even stronger lineup now, the Paris Aviators.
If we ever go, dancing or partying with George Danzer, I mean, I know what move I'm going to be doing with him. Just the rolling the dice. Rolling the dice.
No doubt, Griffin, you will be going partying for it at some point.
Exactly. Of course. I mean, that's my thing. Getting to know all the players. We're going to go to the lounge really quickly, guys. But first, let's talk a little bit more about sort of some of those things that we're talking about with the rolling the dice and all the little things that George was doing, talking about the randomizer. Can you explain that to sort of the layman back home?
Yeah, of course. So George is aware that when he explains his strategy to the guys at home on the webcam, Igor is going to get that information fed back to him by friends watching the stream. So what he wanted to do is change things up. He set an alarm so that he knew that when the information was going to arrive at Igor and he could change up his strategy, he was actually rolling dice and using a randomizer to change up what that strategy is. Because if you just go back and forth between a couple of strategies, Igor can predict that as well. So incredible levels of preparation. Taking game theory here at the GPL to a whole new level, really exciting to see.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things for the match is just seeing them know pretty much exactly where they're at and calling hands.
Fantastic.
Igor with the Queen 7. Let's go to the lounge. Eric and Laura Cornelius are waiting for us to tell us all about how this sweep affects the standings.
Thank you very much, Sam and Griffin. Paris Aviators on top again. Selena Lin won't be very happy. She had a very short lead there, didn't she?
That's right. Nanonoko is on top of the world. His team manager was so happy. That's destroyed as the great George Danzer picks up 9 huge points for the Aviators, who now sit at the top of the table in the Eurasian Conference.
All right, let's see if we have George Danzer on the line. Are you there, George?
Yes, I'm here.
Yay! Oh, look at that big smile on your face. Congratulations, a clean sweep. 9 points for the Aviators. How did you find that?
Yeah, great. Fabrice is going to be happy. He's always motivating us, and after he didn't get that many points, he was a little bit down, and I promised him I'm going to do my best. And I'm happy that it worked out like this.
George, in a perfect scenario coming into this match, were you expecting a sweep? I mean, Igor Kurganov is such a strong competitor. I assume you would have been happy with winning 2 out of 3?
Yeah, I would have been happy winning 2. I think he's a very good heads-up player, but I prepared very well. And I didn't come in feeling like an underdog. But to get the 3-0, you have to get really, really lucky. We saw the Queen 9 against Ace King hand. That's just the situations that it will come down to in a heads-up match, and that was the decisive one to win. It could have gone 2-1 for him too in this match.
You just said about yourself preparing for the match. What went into your preparations whilst you were preparing for this?
I just thought about the format and how the blinds are going to be. I actually, 2 weeks ago on my stream, I played a bunch of hyper turbo heads ups too, and to get the feel for it. And as I stream sometimes, I know how it's on cam. And then I just thought about what am I going to tell the viewers and the opponent, of course, because 10 minutes later is going to be out there about my strategy, and just figured something out that I feel comfortable with, that I don't tell too much, but that I can mix it up a little bit.
George, you're such a competitor and a strong one. Talk to us about your first experience in the GPL. I know you take it very seriously. You don't like to lose anything, so talk to us about your first experience.
Yeah, it was great. The client worked fine, and I have watched a lot of matches, so I knew what was going to happen. And we like to analyze the matches after it and watch the stuff that our opponent showed in the matches before for the 6 max, and then we pool our ideas how to go about it. And it's really a team effort with the Paris Aviators, and I'm enjoying it very much.
What's been your favorite match to watch so far on the GPL?
The favorite one was Elke against Jungle.
I thought so.
That was great. I tweeted about that one right while I was watching it, that I have never laughed so hard watching a poker, because usually it's not that entertaining. But if you get some reactions from the players without the other players noticing it, it gets much more interesting. So that was the best one.
Are you wanting to play Jungle Man heads up now?
Actually, he's playing really great. He's not getting the points, but he's playing really good. So I rather play a different opponent, but if I'm getting served the jungle man, I'm gonna take him on.
George, Fabrice Soulier had he had big decisions to make at the draft. He left off members of his own team, right, at Everest Poker, in Benjamin Pollock. He had decisions that he knew would be politically incorrect in France. He picked you, he picked Mike Lea, and he told me that night in Los Angeles that he specifically picked you two because he knew you would be involved and be cheerleaders for each other. Maybe give us a little insight about how the team dynamics are working.
Yeah, we're having a lot of Skype conversations and thoughts about who should play. We're not focusing on one player because we think, oh, this guy is the best heads-up player, let him play all the matches, or this guy is the best 6-max player, let him play all the matches. We want to mix it up and just make everybody feel comfortable and try to learn a little bit too during the experience, and it's working as we expected.
Well, you have done very well today. A clean sweep, 9 points. Congratulations, and thank you for chatting with us. George Danzer of the Paris Aviators.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. And we are going to head back to the desk. That was George Danzer there for the Aviators, picking up 9 points today against Igor Kurganov of the London Royals. We're going to take a look at some key hands that have just been played.
Thank you, Laura. This is the Global Poker League. I'm Griffin Benger. This is Sam Grafton. And what a crazy way to start this match between Igor Kurganov and George Danzer. Pocket aces, 10-jack offsuit. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, amazing hand to begin things right out the gate. George Danzer coming in for the race. Let's remember his first hand ever in the GPL, and Igor Kurganov with 2 aces made a 3-bet. If you're going to be opening 90% of hands, 95% of hands on the button, you need to defend with a reasonably wide range. So George Danzer peels the 3-bet with Jack 10, and Igor, if you remember, actually complained a little bit that he'd hit the flop too hard, flopping top set of aces, so the nuts pre-flop and then flopping the nuts as well. George Danzer, with that gut shot, gave it some thought about what to do, decided to make the call, the implied odds of hitting the queen, and also occasionally Jack 10 will be best against a hand like 5-6. And what a turn card this was, completely switching the equities. George Danzer, of course, was drawing very thin before that, but turning the straight. Igor at this point, still very, very comfortable with a very strong holding, top set. George Danzer can have hands like King, Queen, worse aces and such like, betting this turn for value. And now George had a crucial decision. Does he just call here or does he elect to raise his hand now on the turn? And what he felt was that even calling twice was going to look pretty strong. That if Igor had a hand like 5-6 or 5-3, a hand that can call a 3-bet, call a flop bet, call a turn bet, he's not going to try and barrel him off that on the river. So he didn't think there was, much value to be gained from the weakest hands in Igor's range. The bluff portion of his range. He felt they would shut down. So he raised to get value from his very strongest hands. And boy, did Igor have one of his strongest hands.
Yeah, again, Igor, nuts pre-flop, nuts on the flop, as you said, and then suddenly, George Danzer, nuts on the turn. I mean, this is just the nature of poker sometimes. A cooler is a cooler. But what makes the hand so particularly interesting is not all the different dynamics, the raising on the turn. I mean, that's obviously very riveting stuff, but the river decision where it comes to a place where, George Danzer, let's talk about the sizing and the conversation that he ended up having, sort of with the audience.
Yeah, so he makes this raise on the turn. Igor with a little smirk, obviously not loving life. He does beat everything except Jack 10. So that's only one hand. Obviously, there are 16 combos of Jack 10, but only losing to one particular hand. Checks the river, and George Danzer now had another decision. What size should I go? Do I go for a small sizing? Are there hands which he will call 10,000 or 18,000, which he will fold for 28,000 or not? And what George felt is that Igor had, a pretty strong range to 3-bet, bet and call a raise, and that all of those hands, or the majority of those hands, would be just as likely to call 28,000 as 18,000. Of course, another thing he's factoring in, of course, is the few bluffs that he has, if he does have a bluff. They're also going to want to exert maximum pressure, if they make a river bet here. So George worked it out, thought it through, and thought there was so much value. You remember, he actually said aloud, so much value to ending the match now. A player like Igor Kurganov could recover from 10,000, makes the shove. Igor, with the second nuts, makes the call, and George Danzer, 3 points in just one hand, record time, an amazing debut. Look at the face of George Danzer there in the bottom corner. Unbelievable stuff.
Great freeze frame from our editors there at the GPL, seeing his face and Igor just laughing. It's just like, what are you going to do? Top set. But the great thing was that, the next match, when he got back on the cam, just such a perfectionist, Igor Kurganov, that said, maybe that is a fold. Maybe I should have thought about it more. Like we kind of reflected once he was talking about ranges, it's so hard to fold top set.
Yeah, amongst these top German players, obviously so competitive, such perfectionists, they think through every single spot, never just writing something off as LOL standard, really working things through. And, that's what's brought them to the top of the game, really.
Absolutely. Let's go to the lounge, see how the clean sweep of the Paris Aviators affected the standings. Obviously, huge work from George Danzer here at the GPL.
Well, indeed, the clean sweep. Nanonoko was the only one who had done it before, and now over. George Danzer done it too.
The only one to have done it in the Eurasian conference. We saw 2 clean sweeps in the in the Americas last week. Yeah, it's a big. I think this one, Laura, when you're taking on London, when you're taking on Igor Kurganov, I think further down the line, we're a 5th through the season already as of tonight. I think further down the line, this will be a really key sweep by George Danzer. Igor Kurganov was just unreal, like calling every hand. He was on top of his game and still could not get any points. London suddenly 12 back of first. That's got to be a little upsetting for Liv Boré. Thank the Lord, thank the goodness that she got 7 points yesterday.
I saw some comments on Twitch. She said, poor Igor, sad face.
Yeah, poor
Let's
Igor.
take a look at the standings anyway and see where the London Royals now are. So they've fallen to 4th place with 28 points. The Aviators, obviously 3 points now clear of Hong Kong. Hong Kong were leading, in fact, after the first match of today.
That's right, that didn't last very long.
It's crazy how quick it all changes. Moscow Wolverines still have a match to go. That is going to be happening very soon. We'll see Sergei Lebedev compete there. So they have the ability to fly a little bit higher up the radar as well. And then Rome Emperors, second from bottom, but then obviously there can score some points as well.
Yeah, I think it's the big match for both. For Moscow, it's interesting because coming off that first week with Lebedev, unfortunately losing 3 matches to Lou, they were really in tough shape. And suddenly, if Lebedev can win at least 2 of these matches, they're suddenly in very good position. If they can win all 3, they move up to 2nd place. That would be a really big accomplishment for Anatoly Filatov, who comes in next week. We'll have maybe a few big matches to announce later on during the week, so we can see that. So really interesting to see what happens. I think for Rome, must win, must get 6 points here. Must get their first win. No wins yet for Rome this year.
And if they do, it will bump London down to bottom to last.
That's right, which is something no one expected.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's take a look at what's coming up tomorrow, because tomorrow's all about America's heads-up play. We are going to see the Sao Paulo Met João Bar up against Jonathan Little for the Las Vegas Moneymakers. That one's at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central European Time. And then we have the debut Oh, in fact, no, we don't have the debut. He's played already, right?
Eugene has played,
Yeah,
played
he
yesterday.
played already. He played yesterday. Eugene Kachelov will be back playing heads up against Jonathan Jaffe.
Debut for Jaffe.
Yes, that one is the debut. And also the debut for Jonathan Little too. Match 29, that's at 12:30 Pacific and 3:30 Eastern or 9:30 Central European time. And Bryn Kenny is up. This one I'm really looking forward to. The Rounders against the Nationals. They're both at the top of the table. Pascal Lefrançois, we saw do some amazing stuff last week. That final match is coming at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. Central European.
Yeah, that's the match I'm most excited
Yeah.
for. It is a battle of first versus second. First place could be decided depending on where the others stand. But it's also Bryn Kenny who is going to bring a show. But Pascal Lefrançois was showing a lot of swagger as well last week. So really a match I can't wait for. Marc-André Danzer purposely putting Lefrançois in. He swept last week. He wanted him to get another chance at sweeping this week. And boy, it'll be intriguing. If Montreal can get ahead of this, I think there's going to be a lot of smack talk. Actually, I think either way, after that match tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of smack talk between New York and Montreal, and maybe a rivalry is born. They've been really dominant for the start of the year, and I think Bryn might rub Pascal the wrong way a few times tomorrow. I think that might happen.
I hope so.
Which, of course, we all want to see happen. Out of respect, of course, Bryn, a big fan of Pascal's and vice versa. They play on the European Poker Tour all the time. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But absolutely the match I can't wait for. Bryn Kenny is one that I can't wait that I've been wanting to see for the longest time. And of course, Lefrançois being a little French Canadian like me, that's never bad to have on TV.
But if Tyler's show last night was anything to go by, Bryn should be
A lot
good
of pressure
as
on Bryn
well.
because of that.
Yeah, Tyler did really good, Bryn's brother, yesterday, so we will see how that one fares. But join us back here. That next match is kicking off. It's our final matchup of today for the Eurasian Conference Heads Up, and it's going to be a good one. We have the Moscow Wolverines, and they are going to be facing the Rome Emperors. Timothy Adams against Sergei Lebedev. It's coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us back then.